This episode of Two Beers Till Takeoff is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement industry. Listeners can now get 15% off their next purchase by using promo code 2beers. That's 2beers, beers in capital at checkout. Live life or your next trip to the maximum with No Days Wasted.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff, the podcast inspired by conversations overheard at the airport bar. Join Phil as he grabs a couple of beers and chats with interesting people from around the world, sharing expert knowledge and hilarious stories that you won't find in your guidebook. So pull up a stool and get ready for an adventure as we explore worlds of travel and beyond with Two Beers Till Takeoff.
4 hours in a Taliban headquarters.
I had dog meat in Laos.
Was it Golden Retriever?
Smack a dirty old smooch on our beautiful fish right here.
He didn't die, but he fell down the side of the mountain.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff. My name is Phil, and today my guest is a Canadian stand-up comedian and traveler. You may know him as the guy behind Man News, or from his wildly popular social media accounts who have amassed over 3 million followers. Welcome to the show, Andrew Backer.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
What's going on with you, dude?
Just on tour, going through the east coast of Canada, the Maritimes right now. It's really fun. Very nice people, awesome shows. It's been great.
Yeah. Any of the highlights? Any highlights from the tour up to date?
Well, it's just interesting because I like booking these tours and just having like back-to-back shows every night. So in order to do that, I had like markets that certain comedians, wouldn't travel to and stuff. So I've gone to places like, so far like Woodstock, which is in New Brunswick, and also Westville, which is in Nova Scotia. Those two places were just wild shows because you're going to places that never get comedy. So the people
really
there
appreciate it.
Maybe they've never been to comedy before, so they really don't know how it's supposed to go. So they think like if they heckle, they think that that's helpful. So it is interesting because as a comic, like I'm not someone who wants to be like, stuck to my written material exactly how it's been written. So I do enjoy going off script and I'm always ready for it, but I can see how, I felt bad sometimes for some of the people because some of the audience would be torn. Some of the audience would be like, we actually really want to hear these jokes. And then other people would just be throwing wrenches, just tossing them in there. And I'd shuck and jive and make fun out of it. But, a lot of stuff just like when I was in Woodstock, I was on stage for an hour and 10 minutes. I did maybe 25 minutes of my act.
No,
because I was just like,
this is crowd work and interaction.
It's just because that's what had to take place.
That's pretty funny.
So it's been fun.
Nice, eventful to say the least.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to start from the top. Can you kind of maybe tell us when you knew that you were funny?
From the jump,
still waiting for that. No.
Man, it came out of the womb, and the doctor was like, "This guy's great. This guy's hilarious." I've always loved comedy. I've always been my brain has always been hyper, just interested with comedy, comedians, watching stand up, reciting jokes. Even from when I was a kid, I would just always recite jokes that I had heard on comedy albums or everywhere really. And then it just became like at this point in my life where I realized that it was something that you could just start pursuing. And that it seemed more accessible. It seemed like anybody could pursue it. And because I loved it so much, I just started and then immediately got absolutely obsessed and continued to snowball from there.
Nice. Who are some of the people that influenced you or the people that you looked up to initially when you got into it?
Right off the bat, it was for sure Dave Chappelle, Russell Peters, Dane Cook. Then I got introduced to George Carlin, found out about Richard Pryor, just completely got lost with Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, another one. Like all these guys were just so good at what they did and their way of speaking that was just so hilarious.
A lot of their content is even like relevant to today, right? Like the George Carlin stuff is it's just so good.
Yeah.
It's timeless.
I saw one of his bits the other day where he was just like, white guys, you're never going to be as cool as black guys. Give it up. It's just so good. Just like point blank. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. His bits too, like on I really liked his bit for like let homeless people have golf courses, or like let them sleep on the golf courses. I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Can you speak to some of the goals or milestones you had when you first began comedy and how that's kind of evolved to where you're at now?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really like type A when I started comedy, very competitive, very wanting to just get better and improve. And so I had like a big whiteboard in my room, my single room that I had rented, and all my goals written up on there. And really high up on the list would have been like be on Joe Rogan podcast by like, I think probably by 2022, I said. So, it didn't quite.
Well, the pandemic is the pandemic.
Yeah,
it's the pandemic.
It's a pandemic. Yeah, that's the only reason I didn't get on Joe Rogan by now is the pandemic. So I had goals like that. I had goals like get on JFL, headline shows.
Just for laughs, for those who don't.
Yeah, it's a big Montreal festival. So those goals were all at the top of my list early on, and it's continued to evolve now because of my understanding of like the landscape, what it means to be a comedian in this day and age. Modern world has changed. So I still would love to do those things, but they don't mean what I thought they meant at the time. Those are like very large career break moments where you think you've made it at that point. Whereas now both of those are great things to have. It's a huge bump for your career. It's great. But it's very much a thing that comes and goes. And what I'm trying to build is something that is more sustainable and more valuable than that anyways now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we got to talk about the topic of the hour. Obviously, Man News, it's absolutely genius. Like it's so awesome. So can you describe Man News to maybe someone who doesn't know what it is yet? And I guess how did you come up with this?
Well, I just recognized that there was a huge vacuum, just a vacant area of news that was not being covered by the regular news networks, particularly news that's very important and interesting to my fellow man.
It's vital,
very important news. And so I started covering stories like rocks falling off of bridges and making large splashes into water, or perhaps mud, because that's a totally different splash. That's more of like a spatter situation. And nobody was doing commentary on this stuff, nobody covering this stuff. So I started, I took it upon myself, the very noble, selfless cause of keeping the men informed. So, and also it's, people get all gendered about it and everything. Look, if you're a woman, you can still, you might like Man News. You'd be an exception because it's 93% men following me, but you're still welcome. Whoever wants, if you're viscerally attached to what's going on Man News, you're here in the right place. And if you don't get it, that's cool, man. There's a lot of those people too. I have a lot of people on my show that be like, I don't get what you do online, but the show, very funny. I'm like, all right.
Don't worry about it, Mom.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. Yeah.
So at what point, I guess, did you start to see that, there was that snowball effect? You just started seeing views and views and views to where it's exploded today.
Yeah, right from the jump, when I made the first one, I was like, man, I think there's something here, because at that point I could recognize that this could be a content series and piece of content that goes viral. It's awesome, right? You have a few of those. I'd already had a few of those here and there, like over 1 million, or maybe over like 3 million, one of the TikToks, but it's very much like a one and done thing. And then you're like, well, how can I make like a series that is something that can continuously start to improve like that and go viral? And then, so I made that one Man News about just something that was going on in the TikTok zeitgeist. And I felt like I was like, oh, this could be something if it hits. And 4 or 5 days passed. It was like stuck at like 1,500 views or something. And I was like, that sucks. And then all of a sudden it jumped to 250,000. And I was like, hey, we got something going on here. And immediately I made 3 more that next day and just kept making up as many as possible for the days to follow. And now it's been, like over a year of just keeping the men informed,
So do you have any ideas for where this potentially could lead? Like, are we looking at maybe a Man News network? Are we looking at like Man News other anchors? Are we looking at, like an actual set? Like what can we expect from Man News?
Man News, our mission always has been keeping the men informed. So we want to just keep up with the news cycle. That's the main thing. I'm continuously folding in new members on Man News that happen to also be opening for me when I'm on tour as a stand-up comedian. And then also just different guys that are, part of the organization. We bring those guys in. I would love to get it to the point where it could be like an online like web show that is a little bit more built out with a full production studio behind it. But for now, I do like the bare bones nature of it. I just report where I am with a blank wall behind me, get those stories out. I really enjoy that part. And then this falls under the whole umbrella of my comedy that I do. And I have a comedy special coming out that is meant to go out to everybody, and especially those that are already following me.
And I mean, in tough economic times, it can't be bad to have a quote unquote side hustle, correct?
Exactly. Yes. The stand-up comedy, very much my side hustle.
I didn't say which one was which. But I guess just to kind of segue to, we're just talking about the news, keeping people informed. Something that's really interesting. I think we're living in a really interesting time geopolitically, especially with the TikTok CEO speaking to Congress. Tensions between China and U.S. and Russia, and it's just becoming a bit of a kerfuffle. So, I mean, for someone like you who's amassed an amazing 2.6, like every time I check it, it changes 2 point.
Yeah, 2.6 on TikTok. Yeah, overall, like through all the platforms, it's just over 3.3 now.
Okay, my bad. I said 3. I ran to this point 3. I did this like 2 days ago. So just to say.
Thank you for doing your research.
Yeah. So so it's crazy how much is blowing up. But for you, you've amassed this huge following. What's your thoughts on the TikTok ban, and also what's your master plan to continue Man News? I know you have other social media platforms, but TikTok seems like the one. Or is that where it began?
It did start on TikTok, and then it's this big content battle that everyone has for short form content right now. That's what all the platforms are fighting for. YouTube's fighting with the shorts, and Instagram, Facebook's fighting with their reels, just trying to keep the eyes on their platform and no one else's. As a content creator, it's not really in my control. I'm just trying to make comedy, make funny stuff so that I can give people levity in their pocket every day. And so I'll just keep doing that. I do it live, like on stages, and then I try to do it on the content so that I can be more accessible to a larger audience and everything. And that's the main thing that I'm focused on. If TikTok falls down tomorrow in the States, well, I'm in Canada, so it don't matter. If it fell down in the States, Canada would probably soon to follow, and that would be extremely unfortunate. It'd obviously be a huge hit to this thing that I've built and my connection to everyone that's following me. But at the end of the day, it's not really in my power, not really in my control. I try to focus on what I can do, and that's making jokes about smashes and splooshes online. And I'll just have to start my own website if the TikTok falls down.
The Man News.
Yeah, Man News website.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Have you considered learning Mandarin?
Learning Mandarin? No, I have not. I'm not great with languages like that. And also, we're not on the cusp of just having the technology translating for us.
True.
I'm ready for that. Ready for self-driving cars, so I don't have to drive anymore when I'm on tour. And then also language translation.
ChatGPT to write new material.
Yeah. I've checked it. Every comedian has checked that. It looks like our jobs are safe for now.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's get into Q&A. Welcome to Q&A. Q&A is just a portion for people to get to know you a bit better, understanding, a little bit of your travel history. So first question, hot or cold?
Hot.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Bus or train?
Train. I have a bit on trains I'm working on right now. I love trains.
Trains suck in North America, though.
The system, it's dwarfed compared to China. Man, China's killing it on trains. High-speed trains, man. You need more trains here.
Or even just like in Europe, like it's just so accessible and easy to use compared to our like clunky CN rail. It's just dusty.
We need to be going on trains. Stat. They have like trains. They have a prototype in China that can drive literally like 500 miles per hour. It's insane. And then they have rails that actually the trains can actively just go 297 miles per hour between places. Imagine you could get to Vancouver in like an hour and a half.
You'd be good for stand-up comedian, probably.
I would love it.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Good answer. Top or bottom bunk?
Bottom.
Bottom. What is your favorite sports team?
Favorite sports team? I would say the Raptors, yeah. Took me too long for that, though. I can feel the Raptors fans yelling at me. He's not a real fan. Long delay.
If you could have a beer with someone from history, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Ooh, I would have loved to mull that question over for a long, long time. But dead or alive?
Is it Ron Burgundy?
Yeah, he would be a great person to talk to. Maybe I would love to talk to Richard Pryor. That would be sick. Yeah.
That's a good answer. What's something you never travel without?
Slides. I love having some slides. Like you could be anywhere and it feels like home because you got your slides on. That's the floor of your house right there.
Yeah, airport,
In shoe
beach.
form.
Yeah, it just works.
That's super clutch.
What is your favorite world attraction?
Like something man-made, like an amusement park attraction, or anything. Anything. I love like waves, like on a beach. I would love to. I love I fell in love with surfing, so I really love like a place where you can just go out and just be on the water.
Oh.
Yeah, and warm water, like tropical.
Not like Atlantic Canada.
Yeah, I don't want to wear a wetsuit while I'm out there.
Yeah.
Tropical.
That's really good answers. It's almost like poetic. Oh, fuck. Which country has the best cuisine? And why is it Atlantic Canada?
I think Italy's got the best cuisine for sure. Their soil is just different there. Like the tomatoes, it's just not comparable.
Doesn't make sense.
It is. Yeah.
What is your biggest travel pet peeve?
Oh, there are so many.
Where do I start, dude?
Yeah. Biggest travel pet peeve. I would say, I think just airport security when they make you pull the liquids out and all that stuff, but sometimes they don't. There's just so much inconsistency. Sometimes you have to take your shoes off, sometimes you don't. Yeah, just all the airport stuff. Just so
Like what's hot this week? Have we caught somebody doing something? What is it?
Some days, like everything's going right through. Other days, more stuff's getting pulled aside for the swab. Like, what does the swab do? Does it do anything? Does it stop anything? The swab is ridiculous. And can we do basic education on what a microphone looks like through the X-ray machine? Because every time they got to go through my bag, they tell me about the electronics in the bag that goes through security with my carry-on. But then every single time they're like, "What is this?" And I have to be like, "It's a shotgun mic." I hate that the word is shotgun because it scares them at first. They hear shotgun, and I'm like, "It's not a gun. It's what the mic's called." And
Just maybe say Mike. There's a person in here.
But I'm a professional. I know what it's called. That's easy.
Yeah, no.
Don't get me going. I can just rant.
Yeah, I mean TSA in the States, like I hadn't been in a while, and we connected through Houston when we came back from Peru, and dude, just a different level of. You get back to Canada, there, you're just like, oh, like wow, thank you, sir. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
They're like, I am the front lines of this beautiful country, and I'm ready to go through everything. Like, all right, relax, buddy.
Yeah, when they're checking your I got a bottle of like hard stuff in in Peru, of like in the duty free.
Yeah.
They check through the duty free stuff. It's like, what's the point of duty free if we're checking the duty free?
Yeah. They're making it.
There's no duty in
They're
there.
making it their duty to get in there.
Yeah.
It's definitely not free.
I've even heard of people like they've taken like samples of the alcohol that they've taken.
Swirling around.
It's like, dude, it's just like a $200 bottle, but whatever, I guess.
Yeah. What is it? What do you think this is? Liquid vodka? Like, what do you? Liquid cocaine, I guess you have to say.
What's the most underrated country?
Underrated country. I think, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, this might segue off this, but Philippines for sure. When I was in Southeast Asia, my whole way through Southeast Asia, everyone was like, Philippines this, Philippines that. Philippines is incredible. Underrated country by far.
Or somewhere you'd never go back?
Where I would never go back.
Where do you never want to get another gig, basically, is what I'm asking.
Where
We found this clip from this podcast here in 20 minutes in here. Andrew Packer can be seen talking shit about our country.
Yeah, I never want to go back to Wetaskiwin in Alberta.
Fair enough.
I had a bad gig there, and although they loved it, which was the craziest thing to experience, again, because they just never have comedy. So even though I feel like the show is like just a mess, I got off stage, they started buying my merch. I was like, I don't understand what is happening here. But yeah, I don't need to go back to that bar ever again.
Great night of sales, but just not a great experience.
Yeah, no, just getting heckled by a 97-year-old lady named Faye for an hour, just yelling at me.
He looks like a chicken.
She's like, she had finished one bottle of wine and she was on to the second bottle of wine and just yelling at me the whole time.
Whatever.
She just yelled whatever, just middle of an attempt at a joke.
It's terrible when you're trying to burn someone and they just keep saying whatever. It
Whatever.
always wins.
Man, Faye gave no fucks. That lady, second bottle of wine at 90, like, she's riding until the wheels come off. I hope she's still alive today. I heard she makes great pierogies. That's all I know about her.
Total hottie.
Yeah.
Where did you experience the least friendly locals?
Least friendly locals.
Or was it Alberta?
No, I like Canada, honestly, back to front is just super friendly, especially when you get out to the small towns and stuff. Honestly, like Torontonians are the least friendly locals. We're so passive aggressive in that city. We'd much rather just like, it's because there's so many people. I feel like when you're in a place with so many people, you just like, you're just trying to like, well, I'll just not look at you in the eye, and that's you giving you space and stuff. But it's very not like friendly at all.
Overstimulation.
Yeah, there's just so much going on, and when you see that many people all the time, it's hard to like care, and you're like, oh, like how is everyone just the main character of their story? Like all these people have their own stories.
It's just
going on.
traffic and
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. It's a mood.
Yeah,
It's understandable.
we work so hard too in that city that everyone, when there's like this prove it kind of mentality at shows and stuff, which it's fine. It makes you better. It's a great place to grow as a comedian. But at the end of the day, yeah, if we're talking just basic friendliness, not the place.
Not the place. What is your favorite cocktail?
Old fashioned.
Good answer. Where in the world is your favorite bar and why?
There was this place in Vietnam, and I'm trying to remember which city it was because it was a while ago now, and some of the places mixed together. But it was crazy. It was like a whole maze they had built inside of this bar. So it was, not only was it a bar, but like it was like a jungle gym maze that was made out of cement, and it looks like you're just going through these like, what do you call them? When like you're underground and you're in where all these different like tubes are and stuff, like
a crypt?
Like a crypt, yeah, like one of those with all these like secret passages and all that. And like you're just drinking and you're in the spot, and it was such a cool place to visit.
It's just like
I'm pretty sure it was in Vietnam.
It's just like a place to lose like that annoying friend.
Yeah, you could get lost in there. Very cool bar though. Really, really just a fun time to explore through that. And when it made such a fun spot, and at the top there was like a bigger area where everyone could get together and play these games, and we were playing games and everything. And yeah, I love how an environment of a room can affect everyone's mood and vibe. Like, and when instead of comedy, it's very much a psychological play that everybody, like the show starts the second they open the door and they walk in, you know? So, I love how like a bar like that it just can shape a whole night because of the environment that they have built for everyone to be inside of.
Nice. All right, well, let's get into the story.
Story time.
Before we get into your story about the Philippines, so we've heard a story about a heckler. I'd love to hear a story about a bomb. Because, you know, stand-up comedy, the greats bomb. Everybody bombs. It's just part of the art, right? Like I've heard Bill Burr, his first show was in Moncton, like his Canada tour. He was like preparing for like a special. His first show was in Moncton. Wouldn't say it was bomb. Like it was.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Oh.
But it wasn't like what I was expecting. I guess is what I'm.
Yeah.
But it's just you understand the kind of the process of like polishing your work or your act.
Yeah. And
so can you maybe talk about a time where you bombed?
I had like a very character building bomb that it's a strange story to bring up this way, because like a true bomb is like when you're walking into like a very professional setting and you're expected to go kill it and you just straight up don't. And I'm always in fear of that. And that fear helps drive me to like be creative in the moment every single day to try and shuck and jive and figure out my entrance and figure out ways of preventing that from happening, and it keeps you present. And you always have to fear the bomb. The comedy gods can throw it at you at any point. They say stand-up is like playing Russian roulette. And as you get better at it, you just get more chambers. But that bomb is still in there somewhere, and you gotta worry about it. But there was this thing that we had in Toronto for many years that was totally dysfunctional. It could never continue and could never last. But it was called the Danger Room. And it was on Sunday nights at the Corner Comedy Club. And it was a show to build the worst circumstances. The hosts of the show would actively go on and just start with there are no refunds. We are here to make the worst show ever. You guys are all encouraged to heckle. If there's a good heckle, we'll buy you a free drink. There was a microphone in the back, and comics could get on that microphone at any point during the set, at any point when they wanted to, and just start heckling you, or they could just start yelling at you at any point. So the vibe of that show was just that, like, if you started to do prepared material and the audience felt it, they would stomp on you immediately. And I was still pretty new, and I would go to this place regularly, but there was one night that really stood out. I went and I waited to get up, and then finally I get the chance to go up, and I'm going with this like energy that, you know, when I was new, like I come from, I'm like a white suburban boy with that like, you know, very religious growing up. So I had some like skin to build. And so I got like attacked immediately and did not have like the energy to take that over. But I continue to do my best. And just these insults just kept flying. And then they got going on the back wing. And then that's when you're just getting absolutely inundated by these guys. And then I got booed off stage. And then the host of the show thought it would be such a funny idea to introduce me back on stage. And so I got introduced back on stage. And then get up, and I'm just trying, but I'm bombing again. It's all just falling apart. Like, I'm not even in like a fun kind of state. Like, I'm shaky and like, you know, trying my best, but like I'm lashing out. And like in the bomb, like, the game of a bomb is like, you need to have more fun than the crowd so that you dominate the energy into being your energy so that they follow along, and then you can continue to process that. But if you're shaky and like lashing out, they don't want to get on your side. You're not having fun, and it's all like very prime. And so I'm trying, and I get booed off stage the second time. And then they break somebody else off, and then the host thinks it's another. Just Great idea. He brings me on stage with another open micer, like another new comic.
He's like arming the crowd with like tomatoes and
I'm just like at this point where I'm like, man, how much worse can it get? I go on stage again and just again, it's just like battle, this bomb. We're sharing a mic, but at this point, like I'm starting to gain a little bit of respect because some of the comics are like, buddy, I would have left so long ago. This guy continues to go on stage anyway.
like the Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, it's just literally, they're like, buddy, throw it in the towel. And I'm just out there still doing it. And I get booed off stage a third time the same night. And then I get outside of the comedy club. I'm standing there. And I just like the deafening noise of the city is just kind of buzzing around me, but it's peaceful, it's quiet. It's like 11:30 at night, maybe even later. And I just realized, I'm like, that whole experience just happened and took place in that room, and nobody outside of that room knows what took place. I'm still alive. And that kind of is something that like really built my character on, like, even if something goes so bad, if I have a night, God forbid, I'm always hoping it doesn't happen. But
it's a bottom.
if it happens, it's like, at the end of the day, it's still kind of just that moment for those people in the room. Worst case scenario, something gets clipped out and put online and maybe a few million people see it. But even if a few million people see it, nobody really saw it. And so, yeah, it helped relieve my character of the full fear of the bomb. I have the fear of the bomb because it's healthy, but I won't fear bombing because the fear of bombing can cripple you into bombing. If that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, it sounds like it was pretty brutal.
It took a few days to recover from that one.
Therapist making the big bucks because of that.
Luckily, I have my girl who's been by my side the whole way through, so she helped. She helped in those moments, and yeah, I couldn't go to that room every single week because she was soul crushing, but it was a good ego check from time to time. And you need that as a comedian because we're not in comedy to have egos and be taken quote unquote seriously. Don't get me wrong, I am a professional. I do this, but I always think that it's an oxymoron when comedians want to be taken seriously. It's like, you're in comedy, though. What did you expect?
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, can we hear, I guess to finish off, can you leave us with your Philippines story?
Yeah, so I was in 2019. I was traveling through Southeast Asia doing a comedy tour out there. It was my first leap into just being a comedian and not having like a side gig, because earlier in the year I got laid off from my sales gig selling coconut water.
You really paused on the Coke.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's just keeping people hydrated. So that was my gig, and I was doing that for a long time, and I got laid off, and I was like, what the, like, I got laid off in March 2019, and then I was like, okay, well, I just want to do comedy, and this is earlier than I was expecting, but I'm going to pursue it. And I was touring through Alberta, doing as much touring as I could until we packed up our apartment. I was living in Vancouver at the time with my girlfriend, now fiance, and we decided we'd always wanted to go to Asia for a trip and then go live in Australia, hopefully. So we decided to go on that journey in 2019. So we started in Singapore, did a bunch of shows there, did some traveling through Malaysia, proposed her in Malaysia, and she said yes. Luckily, that would have been awkward the rest of the trip.
Congrats. Yeah. The smart way to do it at the beginning of the trip, because you can kind of celebrate the rest of it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we ended up calling the trip our engagement moon, which is a fun, cute thing that we had. And then through that whole trip, I'm just noticing there are less and less Chinese tourists, but not thinking much of it. I'm like, isn't this great? At one point, we're in this place in Vietnam where there was this it was an amusement park, and we went and bought tickets when I went in, and it was literally only us. Like Canada's Wonderland level, like
just ghost town.
I would go through the whole roller coaster, come back, and they're like, "Do you want to go again?" Like literally, it was insane. There's a whole safari with.
Babe, I rented out I rented this out for you.
It was literally like that. It was just outside Hoi An in like the middle of Vietnam, and it was incredible. And then we flew over to the Philippines after that. Did some comedy out there, and then as I was flying into this place called Siargao, March 13th hit, the whole place was shutting down, And we were like, what? Excuse me? This is a joke, right? And then they had put signs up everywhere that said like, all tourists must leave. And there were no flights. And we're just like, and all the locals are like, leave.
How?
Do you want us to swim for it? Like, I'm not sure how you expect. They sent enough planes for only 300 people, and there were 1,400 tourists stuck on the island. And so we were planning on moving to Australia. So we weren't in a rush to get home. We were, a lot of people were like, I have to get back to my job. I have to get my apartment and all this stuff. And we're kind of fortunate in that way that we didn't so much panic, but we thought it was gonna be like 2 weeks. We were supposed to be there a week. We're like, okay, so it extends us an extra week, and then we'll make our way to Australia. But then 2 weeks turned into 2 months, and then 2 months turned into 4 months, and there's still no opportunities to come back. At that point, you're like, I guess I live here now. So, for the first 2 months, it was very much locked down. Couldn't do anything. You're allowed to leave anything. So I just started climbing coconut trees every day. So now I'm having this weird circular moment.
Coconut water.
Where I was like, first I was in sales, now I'm in farming. I'm like literally climbing these trees and using a machete to just hack these things off. And I've always loved climbing trees ever since I was like a little kid. So I was just like, naturally, it was just like, I'm going to do this. And it was very confusing for the locals because they were like, is that a white guy in a coconut tree?
He's trying to take our jobs.
What is he doing out there, And I started spearfishing, which is interesting because that's going to get food. So I was allowed to do it. And so I would go spearfishing and, be very unsuccessful and have a lot more respect for the fish. Like, they're so fast and they're so good. I had this janky, locally made spear gun. So it was very hard to use.
Oh, it's probably because of that, right?
Totally, yeah. I needed a machine spear gun. That's what I needed. Just taking out the whole coral. Yeah, so stuck there doing that. And then I learned we were taking a machete, and then during low tide, our Airbnb host Kitya, she taught us how to do this, where we take a machete, and during low tide, you'd walk out maybe a half a kilometer out onto still where it was like low tide, and then you notice like parts of the sand. You start basically stabbing the earth for your food, and you could hunt clams that way. You could feel the difference from dead coral to clamshell. Clamshells, like, it would glide along the machete a lot smoother. So I started hunting those, and at first it would take us like 2-3 hours. We'd get like 3 or 4. But after like 4 months, I would be walking out of there with 2 giant grocery bags full of clamshells, and we'd go make this like clamshell pasta situation. And
nice. Yeah, we do that around here too.
You do?
Yeah. Not with machetes, just like with a shovel or
Nice.
you get like clams and like quahogs and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's sick. It was just so cool to get to experience like the living off of the land in some ways. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're still buying at the grocery store, but there was a lot of things I learned how to do there. I learned how to harvest coconut wine. So I would like climb a coconut tree. You have to climb it twice a day. And you take the flower before it's opened up and then turns into coconuts. It's just like this like shoot. And then you cut it and you start bending it. You bend it first over a course of a few days, and then you cut it, and it drips out almost like maple syrup. And right then and there, when it drips out, it's already alcoholic beverage. It ferments even more after like 2 hours. It's like full on like almost like a spirit, probably they don't check the alcohol content, but it's like probably at least 10 to 12% almost from the jump after like just a couple hours, and then it goes and turns into vinegar. You can use it for vinegar after that. But yeah, we climb that every day, twice, just cutting a new piece off just so to continue down, battling the hornets that are trying to get in on my coconut wine and stuff. And yeah, it was just like such an incredible experience to be out in that part of the world through the pandemic. Very nerve-wracking at first because you're like foreign country, there's like military police walking around with guns and like telling you got curfew and stuff like that. But just very polite Canadian tourists, like, yes, no problem.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. So sorry. And then, we ended up having such an experience I wouldn't trade for anything.
How long exactly were you stuck, quote unquote, stuck in paradise?
Yeah, like there was one opportunity to come back after 4 months, but it was going to cost us over like $3,000 each, and we were like, man, we could live like another 3 months easy off of half of that. Here, so we kept waiting, and then there was an opportunity to come for a more reasonable price, which was still such a journey. But we got back after just over like about 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
7 months on that island. Made like some lifelong friends who have babies now that live there.
Nice. That's so cool, man. I mean, it's initially think of it, you're like, I'm stuck somewhere for 7 months. I'm away from my family, from my home. I don't know if you have pets or something like that. You think that it could be disastrous, but if it's in the right place at the right time, it can actually turn into a paradise and actually a good story for once. On this podcast, typically, I think there's a lot of, sometimes it's some of the worst days of people's lives. So I think this is kind of a refreshing story of someone who had a crazy story, but it was a positive story.
Totally. Some people panicked right away, and they elbowed their way onto those flights and stuff and got home and back for whatever was to ensue after that. And there were so many moments 2-3 months in that we were just like, man, thank God we didn't do that, and just we just wrote it out, and it was just a travel story that we'll just I'll just hold near and dear to my heart forever. It was just truly just amazing, and I can't wait I want to go back to the Philippines. It's such a cool place.
Yeah, because I mean, alternatively, you were coming back to Canada, which was mega lockdown, so you didn't miss much. I took part of it. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
You couldn't have done comedy.
Yeah, no.
Right. You would have had to do like Zoom comedy or whatever people were trying to do.
Yeah.
Which was a great
I did
success.
some of those, but...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because I got back to Canada for the second lockdown and then the third one. So I had that lockdown experience, which sucked. But actually, when I was on the island, I started running comedy shows.
Oh, you did?
And I started encouraging locals to do comedy.
Nice.
And then to run these shows where I would host and headline.
Nice.
So I'd host and bring all these 5 comics up for 5 minutes, or new people that were trying it, and locals too. And then I'll do another 35, 40 after.
Nice. So you had your very own Keltoni.
Basically,
Were you roasting them as well, or
only when it needed it? Sometimes there'd be an old expat dude that just his attack at comedy was very much shock value.
Yeah.
And so in those moments, you need to do some cleanup. But no, for the most part, it was really just amazing to see, everyone's first attempt at it, just see what that is for everybody. Everybody attacks it in a different way. And I was pleasantly impressed.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to kind of make good out of a complicated situation. Mm-hmm. Was your adventure back? You said it was a grueling trip back. What was that like? Was it anything eventful?
It was just challenging because you're in the Philippines. All of the different neighborhoods, the barangays, they have different captains, and those captains are like the mayors. They come up with the rules for what you need in order to travel most times, and they don't really communicate between each other. So you don't know if the documents you have are fully comprehensive of what you need for the whole journey, because you're passing through different neighborhoods the whole way through. So one of our friends actually got stuck in a hut for 5 days, not knowing when he would get out of it because he didn't have the right paperwork for that particular spot.
Oh shit!
And so we were very nervous about that. And he actually shot a full-length documentary about it. He's a YouTuber, traveling YouTuber. Traveling Clat is his name on YouTube.
Nice.
And you can check that out. But yeah, I shot a similar thing. Basically, it's a 10-minute documentary about our journey during COVID through the different places. But we had to take a ferry, to take a bus, to take another bus to get to an airport. It's got us to a more central airport, which got us to Manila, and then eventually to Japan, and then back over to Toronto, or to Toronto. And what a journey.
Yeah, sounds pretty long. Did you have to do the quarantine once you got back?
Yeah, we had to do it was I guess the 2-week thing, or
Did you have to go to a hotel or something?
it was at the time when we could just do it in at our home.
Okay,
So,
okay, perfect. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
It's good that you guys avoided that.
Yeah, we got fortunate on that. And then, man, those lockdowns to follow. Tough times.
So the next pandemic, right?
No, hopefully never again.
But anyways, man, this is really great to have you on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. Can you, I guess, remind the people where they can find you and also kind of what's next for you?
Yeah, everything on my YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are where I'm most active. It's and Packer on all those platforms. For now. Yeah. ANDPACKER. And I have a YouTube special that's going to be coming out. It's a full-length comedy special. I've been working as a stand-up comedian for over 9 years now. And this is basically the culmination of all that work. And I have a few surprises in there that make it so that you do really want to enjoy this from back to front. I know some people jump in and jump out on specials and enjoy the clips too. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy the whole thing when it comes out. Aiming for late April, and it might be a couple weeks after that.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Two Beers Till Takeoff. Do you want free additional content or just to stay connected with the show? Then give us a follow on our social media platform. That means TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. Are you in need of podcast production services, video editing, or anything in between? Then look no further than Strut Sound Productions, the official producer of the Two Beers Till Takeoff podcast. Music produced by Alex Gagné. Check out his work in our show notes. Voiceover done by Viking Leo K. See you next week on Two Beers Till Takeoff.